everyone, Dr. Jones here, and this week I want to tell you a story. I want to share the outline of a story with you, not the whole thing, because if I did that, you'd be sitting here for a lot longer than you would ever want to be sitting here. But this story is important because it was personal to me, and it involved one of my sons, and it taught me an important lesson. In that framework, I learned about communication, or I learned more about communication, and you see, I talk about communication quite a bit, but this is good because it's an authentic piece that happened right in front of me and really enlightened me and got me thinking about it. You see, it has to do with the three areas of communication that I believe are the most important areas. Those areas are intent, language, and timing. So what do I mean by that? Let's talk about intent. You see, every time we communicate, there's intent behind what we're trying to communicate, and often we try to make sure that we sound like we have the right things to say, all the perfect things to say, and word it perfectly. When in fact, what we need to do is not concentrate on how great our message sounds. We need to concentrate on how clear our message is. Because if we don't concentrate on that and we don't deliver the clarity of message, quite often it gets lost. The next thing we need to understand is the right language. You see, if we don't use the right language or adjust our language to the audience that we're addressing, the message, once again, gets lost. That message needs to be addressed at a level that people understand, depending on whether you're talking to adults, students, or in my case, my own son. And then finally, it has to be timed right. You see, communication doesn't do much for anybody involved, and oftentimes frustrates people even more if it isn't timed right. If a person you're communicating with, and think about it, even when you're being communicated with, if you or that person aren't available to hear that communication, well, it pretty much falls on deaf ears, becomes useless, and oftentimes ends up negative rather than positive. So now that I've talked about intent, language, and timing, let me give you some strategies that I find to be useful. First, intent, because it has to do with clarity. Why not just start off with a simple sentence before you communicate that says, I'm telling you this because. I'm telling you this because I want to inform you, because I want to help you, because I have your best interest in mind, because I care. You know, this instance that I'm talking about with my son, the communication where I miscommunicated, it was my fault because I didn't communicate my intent clear enough right at the beginning, where with a simple sentence, I'm telling you this because I care, or something similar, it would have went much better and ended positive. Now, the right language is the next one. This one is sometimes tricky because we have to be aware of our vocabulary. You see, everybody speaks differently. Everybody uses different words that mean different things and different vocabulary. And if you're trying to communicate with somebody that doesn't use or fully understand the same vocabulary that you're giving them, or the nuances behind those words that can be so powerful, well, the message gets lost, they misunderstand, and now we've got another mess to clean up. And finally, there's the right timing. You see, communication timing is incredibly important. When you're talking about something positive or communicating something positive to somebody, you want that to be immediate. You want to build that in. You want to reinforce whatever you're communicating about. But another thing is, if it's negative, you want to pause. You want to step back, get away from that situation so that you don't reinforce that the whole situation was negative or that the whole communication is a negative, especially when you're trying to point out the positive. Because if you don't wait, that person is still living in that negative, and that moment is still very raw to them. So positive, immediate. Negative, take a pause for a moment. Now, that story that I was telling you about, I violated all three with my son. I was trying to give him feedback on something he had done, and my feedback was negative. I did it immediately. I used language that was not really appropriate because of the nuances of the words that I was using and what I was trying to explain, and I did not clearly state my intent. So the communication went awry. Didn't work out very well, did not end positive until later when I could talk to him, which started with an apology on my part, because remember, as communicators, it's on us. If we're communicating something and somebody doesn't get it, we can't just say, well, they didn't understand, they didn't hear me, because the whole totality of communication rests on the person communicating, making sure that message gets across clear. So what I had to do is I had to go back and re-communicate, re-explain, and rebuild that piece that we had lost somewhere along the way. Things would have been much easier, much quicker, much more positive if I had followed intent, using the right language, and using the right timing. Here's a challenge. Next time there's a misunderstanding with somebody, check those three against what you're doing. Tell me if you hit all three, if you missed all three, if you missed one. Give me some feedback. Let me know how it works out for you. If you have found any value in this message whatsoever, or you know somebody that will, go ahead, give it a like, share it, give me some feedback on social media. I'd appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time. And as always, be purposeful, act with integrity, and continue to build your character. Have a great day.